Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Troy Charles. Here are your top stories. The Thunder Bay District Health Unit has reported that 70 extra cases of COVID-19 should have been reported Friday and Saturday. So with those included, the health unit announced 111 new cases today. The health unit said the extra 70 cases over the last 2 days were missed due to issues with the provincial case and contact management database. The soaring case numbers now bring the total active cases to 470. Of the new cases, 107 involved individuals in the Thunder Bay area, while 4 were in District First Nations. 66 of the new cases were considered a result of close contact with a previously identified case. 9 had no known exposure, and an exposure category for 36 others was still pending. With 2 new hospitalizations reported today, there are now 37 residents in hospital, including 11 in the intensive care unit. 2 employees at the Real Canadian Superstore have recently tested positive for COVID-19. The cases were disclosed on parent company Loblaw's website, but were not publicly announced by the health unit. A representative from the company says the store is working with the health unit to minimize risk, and both of the infected staff, as well as those who worked closely with them, are self-isolating. And an outbreak has been declared at the Nanabiju Child Care Centre. The health unit announced that a second individual associated with the centre tested positive for the virus and acquired the infection within the facility. The health unit also confirmed that the centre will not be closing as a result. A day after it was first announced, a COVID-19 outbreak at the Lake of the Woods District Hospital in Kenora has grown to include 10 patients. All non-essential and elective outpatient services will be suspended for 14 days effective immediately. Essential services such as dialysis and chemotherapy will continue. The hospital implemented visitor restrictions Saturday when it first announced the outbreak with 2 initial cases. There are limited exceptions for end-of-life patients and other extenuating circumstances. A COVID-19 isolation ward has been established in the hospital, and the organization is working with the Northwestern Health Unit to determine the cause of the outbreak and trace contacts. As COVID case counts hit record highs in Thunder Bay, it wasn't a surprise the district was moved into the gray lockdown zone, but it took many other regional communities by surprise. The township of Marathon is now urging both the Premier and the health unit to reconsider putting some areas of the district back into red. Adam Riley explains.
The region did not shut down because Marathon had a huge per capita outbreak. Now Thunder Bay has the outbreak, and my thoughts and prayers are with them. But they didn't shut down when we had ours, and we showed that we can handle an outbreak.
Marathon's mayor and council are frustrated following the decision late last month to move the entire Thunder Bay district into the gray lockdown framework, despite the fact that a majority of the cases of COVID-19 in the district are isolated to the city of Thunder Bay. On Monday, at a special council meeting, council passed a resolution to seek clarity on the timeline for the gray designation.
We don't want to say we want to be open right now for business. We'd like to, but in reality, we said, give it a couple weeks, but we need a finite date saying as of March 15th, we need to go back into the red.
Dumas feels as his community is 300 kilometers away from the lakehead and there are no essential reasons for Thunder Bay residents to make the trek to Marathon, that his community and others similarly distanced should be partitioned off from the designation. He is particularly concerned over the impacts the designation will have on small businesses. Stopping
the business communities in Marathon for operating and potentially put them into a situation of maybe closure and permanent closure is not the right answer when we know as a council and we know throughout the district that COVID-19 cases are not being driven by barber shops and small little mom and pop shops, and reducing the size of people going into stores is not necessarily the answer in all cases.
As of Friday, Dumas says there has been no response from the Thunder Bay District Health Unit or from the Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Janet DeMille, on the resolution. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Thunder Bay City Council members have a big decision in front of them tomorrow evening when they vote whether or not to award the contract for the controversial multi-use turf facility at Chapels Park. Local company Tom Jones Corporation submitted the lowest bid. It's a $39 million contract after taxes and contingency. That's more than the initial estimates, and the city would have to borrow $16.6 million to cover the cost. That means with interest, Thunder Bay will have spent more than $46 million on the project. Dougal Media has heard that some councillors who had been in favour of moving forward may now be reconsidering. Mayor Bill Moore, who's been a staunch supporter, says he won't try to guess anything before tomorrow's vote takes place.
There'll be, I'm sure, a very lengthy and robust discussion, and we'll see what happens Monday night. I'm not going to speculate on what individual councillors may or may not do.
Also on Monday, Current River Councillor Andrew Folds will table a motion calling on city staff to consider demographic-specific and time-specific fare-free transit models as part of its broader review of transit services, which is already underway. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is upon the city of Thunder Bay to reimagine its downtown North Core. It comes as a result of necessary sewer and infrastructure improvements. City architects are looking to prioritize pedestrians and bring more green to the area, but are looking to hear from the public on what they want out of the space. Corey Nordstrom has more.
And we're not band-aiding anything. We're actually going to rebuild and set a new precedent for the downtown.
Excavation from facade to facade is how city architect Guy Walter described what will eventually be done to some areas of the downtown North Core. The city has crafted a survey on Get Involved Thunder Bay as they look to hear what the public wants most in the area, which spans north-south from Van Norman to Pearl Street and east-west from Algoma to Water Street.
We've seen a lot of push from a lot of people in the community that they really want to see a lot more pedestrian-centric design. Some people have really proposed, full pedestrianization.
The success of the Streetery last summer, which closed a section of Red River for added dining space, is helping guide their direction as well. But Walter and other city staff have a number of ideas themselves, including angled parking and the addition of more trees.
The survey is pretty broad. We had to for it, but we identify a lot of things like what people's priorities are and how they perceive pedestrian accessibility and how people move around in the neighborhood.
But they have to keep businesses in mind when they will likely need to be closed in some capacity during the reconstruction.
We have to have a major mitigation plan in place to support all these businesses, and how we phase that reconstruction is really critical for a lot of these businesses to survive. Everybody's coming out of a pandemic, so we want to see a way that these businesses can really come out of it with the support and not be disrupted again.
Preliminary designs will be brought to council for approval. Construction preps are slated to begin in 2022, with work expected to be underway in 2023. The survey is available until March 19th. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
A new group called Rainbow Collective is launching in Thunder Bay that will focus on the gender and sexual diversity social movement in northwestern Ontario. Kayla Karim spoke to members of the group and has the details on how they plan to promote change within the community.
Rainbow Collective was founded by a group of dedicated gender and sexual diversity advocates who saw a need to fill the gaps by bringing awareness to the community. President of Rainbow Collective Thunder Bay, Jason Veltri, says more needs to be done to educate people in Thunder Bay about BIPOC and the LGBTQ communities, and that's where Rainbow Collective steps in.
There was a gap within our community with respect to education and awareness. Our previous work in our community has shown that there's still a lot more to do and a lot more education needed. So we're here to fill that void and provide greater access and accessibility to resources and workshops and just a greater advocacy role for changes to government policy, to greater acceptance within our community.
Leadership councils and workshops are in the works for further education and promotion. Vice President of Inclusion Jesse Bogacki says as a group they are trying to target various demographics for the workshops so that everyone in the community is able to be informed.
So we're looking at hosting a variety of workshops. So far I believe we have 6 up on our website, the main one being around gender and sexual diversity and inclusion. So that one we're looking to have some sort of standard for businesses and organizations, not-for-profits, to have a baseline about our community, how to respect our community, what language to use, around pronouns, and just best practice.
Rainbow Collective's goal is to advocate and promote gender and sexual diversity in our region by educating, respecting, and celebrating to build a more inclusive community. Kayla Karim, TBT News.
Joined by Avery McRae. Avery, the NBA All-Star Game, it had some controversy. Should it go ahead? Well, it did go ahead tonight.
And it was a pretty fun game. I mean, NBA All-Star Games are always fun. You get the best players in the world. But the best part is we've got full highlights, including game and skills competition when we come back.